Hello everyone and welcome to my commentary. Do not start your movie yet, but make sure that you have it already ready. I'm going to do a countdown. I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go. And when I say go, I want you to hit start on your movie. However, whether you're watching it on the Blu-ray or the DVD or if you've downloaded the film, I'm going to already be on the opening screen that shows the big blue Totoro and the word Studio Ghibli. I'm starting from like right when that starts on screen. The reason being that the Blu-ray has like a shitload of opening like title things for Disney. So make sure that you're currently seeing the big blue Totoro on your screen with the words Studio Ghibli. And on the count of 3, we'll get started. 3, 2, 1, go. All right. So this is Ponyo on the Cliff by the Sea, which is my favorite film, period, as well as my favorite Disney film, my favorite Hayao Miyazaki Ghibli film, my favorite anime film. It's just altogether my favorite film. And this opening scene has a lot to do with why. This scene immediately makes the sea feel like this really dense, interesting, and mysterious place. Right off the bat, we're seeing just tons and tons of jellyfish. And, you know, most people think of the sea as this big blue expanse of basically nothing, but this film immediately wants us to see the sea as full of life everywhere. Look at how many fucking creatures are on this screen. And then we go down to where I think his name is Fuyusaki, something like that, is sort of communing with all these sea creatures. Down here we have these really basic looking ones that are sort of like Mushi from Mushishi. You get the sense that these are like the earliest forms of life. This is like the most basic life in the ocean. And he's actually creating jellyfish here. I didn't actually catch on to that because the first few times I watched this film because I was so like just being blown away by just how much stuff's on screen. But I've been reading the art book, and it explains certain scenes like this. So he's using these droplets to create all these jellyfish and spawn them from the bottom of his boat, which has this awesome rainbow effect. There's giant squids going on. Look at what the hell is that thing behind him? Did you see the little crab thing? What was that? This thing's got rainbows inside of it. This movie's amazing. There's just so much. Oh my god, look at all these eels and stuff. And what I love about it is, oh, he's like signaling it with something. I don't know what he's telling it, but I guess it communicates that way. And he looks like he's really enjoying himself. I love this guy. He loves the sea, man. He's just all about it. So anyway, what I love about the sea, the depiction of the sea in this film, is that it is so dense. And you know what's crazy about the ocean is that it's a part of our planet, and we know like nothing about it. When you like look into how much of the sea is explored, it's like barely anything. And it's fascinating to think that there are things right here on Earth that we just don't know shit about. So anyway, Ponyo is on screen, and she is just the most adorable thing ever. She's got all her little sisters who are following her around. Ponyo is clearly the big sister, and as we'll see, all the little sisters have a deep affection for her. And you can see already how crazy it is that all of these sisters act, you know, individually. Every fish, every creature, everything in this film has its own personality, is animated individually. And bear in mind, this entire film is all hand-drawn. All of the backgrounds are actually drawn with, like, pencils and poster paint. Like, it's like colored pencil over poster paint. So they're all, like, physically non-computer, non-digital, hand-drawn backgrounds. And then I think the characters and everything are... They're drawn digitally, but all by hand. Everything is drawn by hand. And the reason is that's what the biggest goal was with this film. Hayao Miyazaki wanted to create a film that would show what hand-drawn 2D animation was capable of to the furthest extent possible. He wanted to show what you can do without resorting to CG. And the result is Ponyo. So as we see, Ponyo is escaping from her home, sort of going on her own little adventure, riding on the backs of these jellyfish. And it's pretty adorable when you read the art book and how it sort of interprets these scenes, because the art book like retells the movie, but it'll have like little notations of what's going on in each of the pictures, and they describe it as she treats the giant... She's entranced by the moon. She sees the moon and she's like blown away by it, and then she uses the jellyfish as a futon. That's how they described it in the art book, and I just thought that was adorable. Look at her. Oh my god! She's so fucking cute, it hurts. This is the cutest fucking movie ever. And a large part of that has to do with the colors. They managed to make this movie unbelievably vibrant without any of it feeling garish. And they talk a lot in the art book about how it was really difficult to pull that off. Like, this is not a color scheme you will find in any other film. Actually, before I continue talking about that, let's talk about these images. This sort of intro screen, you should be seeing the word Ponyo on screen right now, by the way. If we are synced correctly, you should be seeing that. This scene with its very simple lines and simple colors is kind of what this film was built around. Like, they wanted the lines and the colors to be really simple. Nothing was supposed to be super shaded. Nothing was supposed to be like clean looking, like with the lines and everything. And that's because they wanted to show how powerful something could be when it is completely hand-drawn, uncareful, unprocessed. They wanted it to look as little machine-drawn as possible, so it would just be lively and human. And it does feel that way, or not human so much as alive, I should say, because I think Hayao Miyazaki would sort of might resent calling it just a human touch when the film is so much about the bonding of humanity and nature. Really, it's definitely a film about nature, and every Hayao Miyazaki film has heavy themes of nature and of pollution, how humanity is sort of ruining the world. But this film actually is more forgiving, and I'll get into that more later. These scenes of these boats going by, they specified in the art book that in most anime, when you draw a boat going by, you would just take a still image of a boat and move that frame across the background, very simplistically. But Hayao Miyazaki said there would be no shortcuts in this movie. Every single image is frame by frame drawn, so they redrew that whole boat in every frame. There is no shortcuts used, as there would be in most anime. So this film is one of the most like detailed animations in any Eastern animated film, probably. It's definitely on the level of any Disney film, if not above. I would honestly say above. As someone who has recently watched almost every Disney film and every Miyazaki film, I think this one might be the most expressively animated film that I have ever seen. It's just unbelievably detailed in its fluidity and movement and character. There's a lot of fishes. Ponyo is starting to realize that she may have bitten off a little bit more than she can chew, but what's great about this movie is that Ponyo is really crafty. What's great about her as a character, I should say, is that Ponyo kind of rolls with the punches. In fact, I would describe that as every character in this film. All of them are very adaptable to the situations going on around them, but this is the most like scared and confused that Ponyo will be. In some ways, this is the scariest scene in the movie because most of it is so happy-go-lucky, and this is the one scene where you really are like, oh, she's in danger, but of course she escapes this net. And this also presents, the human filth that we have generated, how the ocean is polluted and gross and it sucks, and you feel that weight of, oh god, this is what we would do to something like Ponyo. Something as pure and beautiful and adorable as Ponyo is trapped in a jar because of our human filth. Certainly makes you feel like you want to do a little bit better for the environment. Here's a pretty great shot. I love the way the water looks receding and everything. And then he picks up Ponyo. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been one to not litter anyways, just because that's how I was taught. But I definitely think this film makes a good case that most people would not want to, at the risk of, I like, put it one way, I would show my kids this movie and like tell them, yeah, you wanna get Ponyo trapped inside a fucking jar? No, then don't pollute the oceans. Although, on the other hand, this is how she meets her lover, Sosuke. Now, these things are interesting. The minions is what they're called. They're minions of Ponyo's dad. And they're just these menacing, like, water fish creatures. They're somewhere between being water and being alive, and they're just one of the many things in this film that is not really explained. Ponyo definitely likes to keep most of things magical, and I really think that that there is no explanation for what these things are. There is no version of them that makes sense. They're water fish things. That's all there is to it. There's nothing else to be known about them. By the way, I am watching this film dubbed, and I've only actually watched it dubbed. I think I might have watched a little bit of it in Japanese, but I think that Ghibli films are the only thing that I like really feel comfortable watching dubbed, because the Japanese voices on Ghibli movies are often kind of awkward anyways. They don't use like regular voice actors. They tend to use more obscure voices and stuff. And Disney brings these films to America, and they dub them with professional actors. Right now, we're hearing Liam Neeson playing Ponyo's father. Ponyo herself is voiced by Noah Cyrus, I think, which is Miley Cyrus's little sister. Sosuke. His voice is one of the Jonas Brothers, I think. I mean, regardless of how you feel about like any of the Disney canon people, I think they all do a fine job in this movie. It's mostly a visual experience anyway, and I really would not want subtitles on the screen distracting me from the unbelievably gorgeous visuals of this film. I love the look of Sosuke. He's got this certain nobility to him, and here, like, you see how Ponyo is spraying him to defend herself, but he interprets it as something fun and adorable. He just loves this thing right off the bat. He's so excited about it. He thinks it's a goldfish, but he thinks she's the greatest thing ever. And his mom, I love his mom so much. She's voiced by what's her name from 30 Rock and Saturday Night Live. You probably know who I'm talking about. So anyway, this guy looking weird as hell comes ashore. He's using this pump thing to hydrate himself because he's not used to being on land. According to the art book, he used to be a human. He is no longer considered a human. He is some kind of fish monster man, but he has to hydrate himself. He's not used to being on land anymore. This guy comes off as this eccentric sort of villainous presence early in the film, and there is a side of him that he definitely doesn't care for humans at all. I would say he's basically racist against humans, or speciesist rather, but he's overall a well-meaning guy. He just wants what's best for the things he cares about, which are the sea and his daughter Ponyo, and in the end he really will come through for Ponyo in a big way. So I think he's a good character. He's got complex emotions. Here we see Sosuke's mom kicking ass at driving. Sosuke's mom is the craziest, most awesome driver ever. Oh, and this is one of my favorite things in this movie too. I'll just be quiet for a second and she healed him with her magic. She is magic. He's immediately taken responsibility for her. This kid he knew that he liked her, and he was like, "All right, I'm gonna take care of her." He's a very responsible kid. So Ponyo goes right for the ham. And if you've seen this movie, which I assume you have if you're watching this video, Ponyo loves ham. And it's a recurring line throughout the movie. It's one of the it's almost mimetic. I don't think there's ever been a real Ponyo loves ham meme, but there should be, because it's like the most memorable repeated line in the film. And the idea that Ponyo loves ham was like the first thing that really caught my attention when I was watching this film for the first time, and made me start to fall in love with it, because Ponyo is a fish. She's a fish. And she's eating a pig, and she loves it. And that perfectly represents how, like, this film's real intention is not so much to, like, to say that humans and the sea are enemies. And by the way, look at this ridiculous bullshit. She just drove in front of the boat, like, and it's totally normal for her. She does this every day. She just fucking drives like a maniac to get to work. I'm not even sure she needs to be there in a hurry. Like, I don't think her job is that pressing that she needs to be there like on time, but she's just crazy. But anyway, the fact that Ponyo loves ham, it's interesting because this film could have portrayed humans as just straight up evil. Like, you know, we're polluting the ocean, we kill other creatures to eat them for sustenance and stuff like that. But the fact that the fish creature starts eating the processed meat from the animals that we kill suggests a sort of symbiosis there. Like, maybe the animals would do the same thing. If they ate ham, they would love ham, you know? It doesn't so much accuse human beings of being like monsters because we consume other life, you know, which obviously a lot of animals do. There's plenty of animals that live off of meat. We wouldn't ask them to become vegetarians or anything, and likewise is not necessarily expected of ourselves. I just the concept of the fish eating ham cracks me up so much, and that it's like the foundation of the relationship between them, that like that's the first taste she got of humanity after eating Sosuke's blood. It's possible that she only likes the ham because she's tasted Sosuke's blood, but either way, in the end, this film really is about humans and fish, people, things getting along. So now Sosuke is trying to vaguely hide her, and I don't remember if he said the line already. I've been talking over the movie so constantly that it's hard to tell, but there was an interesting note in the art book where Sosuke said to Ponyo at some point, like, "I'll protect you," and that is the moment that Ponyo fell in love with him. Like, the art book almost explicitly says that, and I thought that was pretty interesting. That basically from that point forward, you know, like for him, the minute he saw her, he was just thought it was the greatest thing ever, and for her, there's this little girl. She's so pointless. She obviously likes him, and he does not give a shit about her. It's like she's just so basic. She wants to get his attention, but he's like, she's a child and he's a little more mature, you know, as a kid who puts a lot of emphasis on responsibility and individuality, I guess. He seems like he's a little out of the depth of these other kids who think they're gonna impress him with their dresses and stuff. He's into magical fish girls and shit. So then this girl, she's just being a bitch, and I like to think that that Ponyo recognizes that she's trying to get his attention, because she fights for her man here. These kids are adorable. I think it's possible that if you don't like children, you might not like this movie that much. A lot of people regard this as just yeah, Ponyo attacks her, which is hilarious. A lot of people say that this movie is like just a kids movie, or that it seems like just a kids movie. Now, obviously, I think that's a load of shit, because I don't think there's such thing as just a kids movie. I think there are movies that kids will more easily get into, and I think there are movies that adults will have a harder time getting into. But I think Ponyo has an appeal that has nothing to do with age. It just happens that the main characters are children. And a lot of people not only equate that with a film being for children, but also just generally don't like kids. Some people don't want to be reminded of childhood, either because they want to think of themselves as grown up, or because they just don't like dealing with children in reality. Personally, I like kids, so I have no problem with kids being the main characters. I can easily accept that kids do dumb stuff because they're kids. And even though Sosuke is obviously really smart, I mean, that other little girl is hilarious and adorable, and I could easily see people hating her just because she's, you know, a huge bitch, but She's 5. It's fine if she's a huge bitch. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Ponyo was spraying him affectionately there. I think that's sort of her asserting to him that she likes him at this point. She cares about him. She wants to defend him from others and protect and sort of be friends with him. Right here, these old ladies get introduced. One of them is voiced by Betty White. I don't remember who the others are voiced by. Probably less famous old ladies, but these old ladies are adorable, and I love that they're sort of pairing this kid up with these old ladies. And throughout this film, there's people of every age represented, and all of them get to participate in this film. So I think, again, it's a film that really anyone could project onto. The children have child-oriented problems and concerns. The adults have adult-oriented problems and concerns, and the old people have old people problems and concerns. These women are worried about how to keep themselves entertained on a day-to-day basis. One of them's very superstitious and possibly losing her mind a little bit. The other ladies are like, oh god, she's being that way again. But you always get the sense that the characters are who they are. Like I said, they all have concerns that are relevant to what kind of character they are. Sosuke's mom acts like a grown woman. They don't dumb down her dialogue or her motivations to be more understandable to children. I think that if you're an adult watching this movie, you will understand Sosuke's mom more than you would if you were a kid watching this movie. And likewise, I think that the old people, they're not just, the old ladies aren't just there for comic relief or anything. I think they are their own characters who are relatable in their own ways. This is the worst scene in the entire film because of all the fucking disgusting sea roaches. God, why? That is the worst. Thankfully, they only do that once, or well, they're still there, but this is the only scene that has them, and they're, disgusting. Oh, here it is. He just said it there. No matter what, I'll protect you. So this is the moment where Ponyo's officially fallen for him, and she's able to say his name now. Now, for those who don't know, even though it is spelled out in the film, so I guess everyone probably knows, but this movie's actually based on The Little Mermaid, the original story. Obviously, it doesn't play out quite like the original story, because I'm pretty sure that The Little Mermaid has like a horrific, tragic ending. But the general concept of a fish girl falls in love with a human and wants to become a human, that is adapted straight. And of course, the overprotective father. I will say this film is way better than Disney's The Little Mermaid. I can say that with a lot of confidence because I watched that recently and it wasn't that good. So now Sosuke's getting just swarmed by these crazy fish creatures, and like I said, it's cool because they're part water, part fish, so they can like dissolve back into water. Just what a cool concept. They're interesting. I don't remember if I finished talking about this at the beginning, how just the mysteriousness of the sea is so well represented in this movie, because it shows us that there's like, it's not just what we expect to be in the deep sea, like you watch a movie like Finding Nemo, and it's this adventure of the deep sea, but what you actually end up finding there is all things you know about. We all know about anglerfish, we all know about sharks and all that stuff. This film presents us with deep sea creatures that are imaginative and like really out there that are magic. I mean, it's a magical world, but at the same time, we don't understand our own oceans. So like the idea that these things could be out there, there's sort of that mysticism, and that's a part of what I love about the sea. It's a lot like space, where we don't really know about what's out in space. We don't really know what's out in the sea, and I think that makes me personally connect to this film a little better. And now we get to see like the busy shopping district. Look at these strides she's taking. Man, she is just a boss. According to the art book, Hayao Miyazaki described her as a heroine from a world of swords and magic. Like she's a warrior class lady who is in this real world. What is this driving? What are you fucking doing? What are you thinking? Why would you drive like that? You maniac. She takes a huge lick out of his ice cream while driving, and she's just so unfazed by it. Like, this is just her everyday life. It's like, it's so irresponsible, but at the same time, you can't question it. Oh my god, it's like, and it cracks me up because my mom is just that sort of insane driver where she does fucking 90 on straightaways just to get, like, weaves around cars and shit. And my mom drives so sometimes things closer to sports cars, so now she's driving a Volkswagen Beetle, still drives it like a fucking madman. So it's just relatable to me in the most hilarious way that his mom is a psychotic driver. I would not want to ride in the car with her at all, but I am in love with Sosuke's mom. I will say that much. She's my favorite character. Well, I don't know, it's tough because Ponyo's fucking adorable, but I am legitimate. I would totally marry Sosuke's mom if her dad were out of the picture. She's awesome. I'm gonna eat some of this macaroni I've got sitting in front of me real quick. So if you hear any gross noises, that's me eating macaroni. This macaroni has gotten cold. I no longer wish to participate in it. By all rights, I should have made myself some ramen with ham in it, but I didn't have that level of forethought. So, the introduction of Sosuke's dad and his general situation tells us a lot about why Sosuke is the way he is. Because his dad is a military man, and he's obviously a really hard worker. He's taking a double shift. He's going back out. He's a Navy guy. And you get the sense that his dad has instilled a lot of pride and a sense of duty into his son, considering that Sosuke is always wearing like the Navy cap around. He's super excited about his dad. He obviously really cares about his dad. So you get the sense that he wants to be an adventurer. He wants to be a Navy guy. He's got the sort of crew cut going on in the back with his hair. He sees it as a noble and honorable job, and his dad seems like the kind of guy who takes his job seriously, and is a reliable guy. And Sosuke's mom, she's also a hard worker. She's also reliable, but you definitely get the sense that she needs sort of requires a bit of stability from the guys in her life. And since Sosuke's dad is not around all the time, then it relies on Sosuke to help out around the house, to keep his mom company. He has a lot of responsibility, sort of filling in for his dad in ways. And knowing how to do things like this is I like how she says bug off, and I just always, in my head, it becomes fuck off. I believe she's actually saying baka in Japanese, so she's just calling him an idiot over and over again. And of course he's trying to be romantic and she's just getting mad. Oh my god. These are just the best characters. Oh, he's flashing the whole lights on the ship. How did he even do that? I love how Sosuke's all impressed. Like, he thinks his dad's made a great move and all that. Yeah. This kid is definitely a chip off the old block. There's definitely a this whole family has a general sense of romanticism and fairy taleness to them that is strangely believable. You know, even though it's a fairy tale, the parents are real people, and you can get the sense of how Sosuke is the way he is, and that's what's great about it. It's relatable and real, even as it is a fairy tale, which is why, as I said before, I don't see any reason to consider this a quote-unquote kids movie. I think any adult could reasonably relate to Sosuke's mom and her relationship and her child. These guys, I love them. Love everyone. Here's a cool looking place. Look, it's like a house anemone thing. So this laboratory, and I know you're sick of hearing me say these words by now, but in the art book, they said that, and this is like the weirdest thing I read in there. Apparently, it's sort of a headcanon of Hayao Miyazaki, or I guess it just is canon because he's the one who created the story, that that Fuyutsuki is the assistant of Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. He's actually the captain. He was Captain Nemo's assistant like 100-something years ago, and has since been maintaining a laboratory under the ocean. Now, I haven't read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, so I don't completely understand if that parallel would make me excited. But the idea that he's been around for over 100 years and was like an assistant to someone from another story entirely is pretty entertaining. Which also means that 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and The Little Mermaid are officially a shared universe, I guess. And now we've got all of Ponyo's sisters freaking out. And she's transforming into a chicken. A lot of people don't like Ponyo chicken mode because she's weird looking. She kind of looks like a frog chicken thing. I love it. It's fucking weird, and I love that it's weird. I love that they would make a sort of ballsy design choice like that. And her magic is slowly getting more intense. That was a very Ghibli moment there, the way his face was. Very Spirited Away, or what's the other one? Howl's Moving Castle type of face. He's drinking all kinds of magic potions, I guess to power boost himself. And he's magicking her away. Now, with all of Ponyo's little sisters, apparently each of them was drawn by someone different. They had like a bunch of animation assistants do each of the sisters, so that they would come off as particularly individual. They very much wanted to stress that even though they are sort of a school of fish, each of them is their own character. And if you look really hard, you can see all kinds of little things. There was one of them getting squished into the background by the others in that last moment. You can see all, like, I would definitely, this is the kind of film you could watch frame by frame and notice a lot of things that you probably wouldn't notice just watching it outright. But even without frame by framing it, you can definitely feel the sense that they are all individual. It is not just oh my god, look at all these fucking crabs. There's crabs everywhere. And these also, you get that sense that they are all individual crabs, individual drawings. Because a lot of shows, and they talk about this in the book as well, a lot of productions would just make a bunch of CG clones of something and then just put a million of them in there. Like, if you watched the first episode of Persona 4 The Golden, where there were like a million of these identical CG creatures, and I guess they thought it would be impressive because there's so many of them, but it was just like, okay, it's just a whole bunch of little dudes. Whereas this film really looks impressive because you're like, wow, that actually feels like a bunch of individual crabs. That does not feel like a bunch of identical CG objects. It feels like a bunch of individual creatures. And there's a theme of that throughout this film, and I'll touch on it again later, where there's a scene where they use colors to get a similar effect. But I definitely think that's cool that they would put that much detail into making everything look individual. This scene, I think, could easily sort of throw you off if you were watching this film for the first time, because it sort of paints him as villainous because he's announcing his intention to eventually, this pool is supposed to end the age of men. Yeah. Yeah, he's done with humans. He wants them gone. He wants to bring the world back to an age of ocean, an age of the sea, which is kind of understandable, but obviously as human beings we do not want that to happen because we'd rather not get wiped out. But he's not actually going to do it by the end of this film. He's not really so much a villain. He's definitely an antagonist, but I think by the end he may change his mind about his plan, considering that his own daughter becomes a human. I think he gains a stronger affection for humans by the end of this film. Oh, here they come in droves, all the little Ponyo baby sisters. Look at them, what are they doing? What are they doing? Look! Look at all the little faces. Oh, baby Ponyos. They just get wild. I love that moment when they all burst away from the middle. You know what it reminds me of? But like a good version? Do you remember in The Matrix 2 when they have that really shitty looking CGI fight scene where Neo like blasts all the Andersons off of him in like an array? This is like if that looked good. Look, see, they're all doing, every single one of them's doing something different. It's crazy. And now she's magicking her way out of here. I love that effect too, the way like the bubble sort of pushes out in like this block and then it explodes. And then you see the water crashing through the rest of the lab. Everything in this film is just animated so inventively. And this like this weird face that Ponyo has while she does all this stuff. She just eats it. She opens up the window and just eats the water going into her face, like with no resistance. There's fish fucking everywhere. This is chaos. A beautiful whirlwind of chaos. Oh, Jesus. Oh, his laboratory's fucked. This film has a very big sense of mischief and it's almost overwhelming a lot of the time. There's just so much stuff going on, which of course I love as someone who loves density in works. And oh fuck, she's overloaded it. Now this scene once again, this scene rather in particular, shows you like what the original intentions of this movie were, like to have this really simplistic art that still is really gripping and interesting to look at. And apparently this whole scene was done by one key animator. It was all planned and drawn by one guy. And when Hayao Miyazaki looked at it, he was like, I can't change anything about this. He was so impressed with it, and that it just captured that spirit he wanted to go for so well that he just didn't even touch it. Oh my god. And then of course we get this epic song. Joe Hisaishi, who does the music for all the Ghibli films, always reliably providing great music. Ponyo's finally reached her full little girl stage, and all of her sisters are flying with her. This is fucking epic. The music is almost like Rise of the Valkyries or something. It's got that going to war feeling. It's when when a so-called kids movie is reminding me of Apocalypse Now in its soundtrack. Oh my god! Alright, so this shit has gotten intense. And I think this is legitimately meant to be scary in like the most playful way possible. And it's possible that this is scarier for adults than it is for children, because as children we'd just be like, whoa, there's fish going everywhere, this is crazy. And as adults we're like, oh god, that ship is going to die, those people are going to die, this is crazy, everything is going to get wrecked. And Ponyo just doesn't give a damn. And all he notices is that she's Sosuke's age. There's something magically oblivious about the characters in this movie that I really dig. I love I mentioned it earlier, how everyone just kind of takes everything in stride, you know? They question it, they're like, whoa, what's going on? But they just keep rolling with it. No one ever stops to dwell on anything. The film is always moving forward, and we'll see that in particular in the coming scene. But this storm is getting out of hand. Ponyo has basically unlocked ultimate power, and she's full of passion, and it's causing a large storm. She just wants to get to Sosuke, and everything else is going to get wrecked until she can get there. Her emotions essentially are controlling the greatest power in the known seas. And I also love that they cut to this sort of these placid moments like this, where we just had that big epic swell, and then we cut to this very quiet, sort of dark, mysterious scene. And it's just the calm before the real storm. The storm's already happening, but it's gonna get real. It's just these little details like this, like you get this clear sense of the world and lives that these characters live in, where, you know, Sosuke's used to coming to this daycare because it's right next to his school. You know, he's probably familiar with everyone here. The woman who was talking to Lisa just there, obviously, you know, knows her home situation, knows Sosuke. It's a very small town where everyone sort of knows each other, but in particular, you know, Sosuke is familiar with all of these people. This is all part of his daily routine. And I think it's powerful and gripping to me when a film can communicate something that that makes me immediately feel like I understand the characters in the world they're in. This film, every Miyazaki film really does a great job with setting. They always create a memorable location that feels alive, and like even if the story wasn't happening, you understand what the characters would be doing. Like in Spirited Away with the bathhouse, like it takes so much time to make you feel what the bathhouse is like, what people's lives are like there before it really gets crazy. And this film manages to do that as well. And I think it does it better because Spirited Away feels like it's almost split in two, where there's the opening scenes, you know, set up why Chihiro ends up in the bathhouse, but then the midsection of the movie is all just her acclimating to life there before the plot really gets rolling. Likewise, in Howl's Moving Castle, there's a long section of the girl just sort of getting used to life there. This film never feels like it's breaking away from what's going on. You know, we right from the beginning saw how Ponyo escaped. We saw how she met Sosuke. In this scene, she's trying to get to Sosuke, and it's creating this storm. And this little scene could be considered a small break from the action to just establish some things, but I don't think this film ever loses its sense of progression the way that I felt Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle did. And just little things like that. She drives out and just all the rain hitting the windshield. There's so many details in this movie, and I can't stress how important details are to me. Like, nothing gets me engrossed in a world more than small little details that flesh it out more. And the ocean is raging. Now, one of the major goals that they set out to accomplish with this movie, other than the aforementioned one about there was the goal of expressive 2D art, but then the other goal was that the ocean had to be one of the main characters of the film, the ocean itself. They did not want to portray the ocean as a setting, but as a living entity. And this scene is really where they put the most effort into trying to do that, where, you know, the giant fish, who we know are transformed from Ponyo's sisters, but at the same time, they are the ocean. They aren't just fish, they aren't just water, they aren't just Ponyos. They literally have become the ocean itself, and so the ocean itself is rising and attacking, as if it has a will of its own. And, you know, that was a big part of what they wanted to convey. This is my favorite fucking part for Sosuke's mom. Just this woman is amazing. She's like, what's that? Fucking chest high water and a tidal wave coming? And I don't... Okay, what she waits for here is for, like, the water to recede right before the wave comes by, so that, like, it'll be just, like, little enough water that she could go through it. Fucks given zero. But remember, she's used to timing shit like that. She's used to fucking just barely beating the boat. This scene right here, apparently, the guy who drew that little that scene with her car going through the water and then bouncing on its axles and all that, the guy who drew that said, I think I became an animator just to work on this movie. Like, that was how fulfilling it was for him to draw those scenes of the car. And it definitely made the car feel very lively. Here we've got Ponyo being fucking adorable. This, oh my god, it's just the juxtaposition here of this adorable little girl just happily running on the waves, and everything is terrifying and chaotic. This scene is horrifying. She's like a slasher fucking villain at this point, but so adorable that you just love it. Oh my god, the animation here is... Ooh. Ooh. When has anything ever been this well animated ever in history? Can you name any sequences in animation that are this stunning? I defy you to. I'm trying to come up with anything. She's just like, that wave is just after us. Like, it's totally normal. Like, it's not the craziest shit ever that this wave is literally trying to attack you. And then he thinks the little girl has fallen. I'd get back in the fucking car. But, you know, this kind of shows you know, these characters are the type who care about the people and things around them. You know, even though his mom didn't even see a little girl, he just said that he saw one, and she immediately stopped to take care of it. Ask yourself, would you have done that in this situation if you didn't see it yourself, but there was a chance that your kid saw little girl? She obviously trusts Sosuke a lot because he is a responsible kid, and I think the fact that she trusts him is probably part of what makes him responsible. I think children are prone to be better people if you respect and trust them and don't treat them like they are idiots or lesser human beings. Good fucking dodge. And we got Chicken Ponyo. She finds the bucket. And she's like, hey, wait a minute, I recognize this bucket. I think I might have made it. I think I might have found Sosuke. And Ponyo just runs right past her. She has one goal in mind. I love this boy. He is mine. That serious face. And then just boom. Glomp of the century. This is adorable. And it slowly sinks in. Oh my god, it's my goldfish. And he's just like, this makes sense, this is possible. And his mom's reaction is the best part. Because at no point does she ever question. Oh, this is gorgeous. The storm's clearing because she's happy now. And all she does is pick them up and go, alright, we're going inside. She never once questions how it's possible that this little girl is Ponyo. Because even though it doesn't make any sense, there's no way it could be true, but at the same time, the fact of the matter is, there's a little girl here. She needs protection. She seems to know Sosuke. Sosuke seems to know her. Whatever. That device is fucking cool, by the way. It's a flashlight that you keep plugged in, and then when you unplug it, it switches over to its battery charge. What a neat doohickey. I've never seen one of those in reality, but I'm sure they exist. But it's a cool idea. Something a responsible parent might have. Damn, they've just got like flashlights set up everywhere. I guess their power must go out a lot. Storm prone area. Did you see the whole frame shake when she landed on the table there? She's just so excited. But yeah, this is exactly what I meant by rolling with the punches. Like, all she knows is this little girl exists, and therefore I'm not going to question it. Because she's a fish, water can't make her wet. I guess. Whatever adds up. And I don't think that makes her an unbelievable character either, because I think I would probably react the same way. I mean, I'm annoyed when there's like, when a character can't believe something in spite of there being perfect evidence towards it, where like, yeah, logic doesn't explain Ponyo, but the facts are there, and you know, whether or not she completely buys into it or not, there's no real point in questioning it. It won't get you anywhere. And that's really the magic of this film. Oh, so she has freaky control over all of her toes. This whole scene altogether was the moment when I realized that Ponyo was my favorite movie the first time I watched it. Just the characterization of Sosuke's mom, and the way that Sosuke and Ponyo are just having so much fun just being. You know, Ponyo's just so excited about being a human and is just running around doing all this fun stuff. She's stupidly adorable. And Sosuke just at no point is critical of her or like questions her actions. It all makes perfect sense to him. He's like, she's a fish girl. Yeah, of course. She's gonna act that way. Let me just tell her what to do, you know? No one gets mad in this movie, ever. And I love that. You might be thinking, but, well, I guess, you know, Ponyo's dad gets mad, but, you might see that as a lack of conflict. I see that as a really good-natured and fun movie. Then again, I grew up on Winnie the Pooh. Even that had conflict, though. Rabbit was a dick. Look at this saintly woman. And of course, Ponyo wants ham. I just love how they explain things to Ponyo so matter-of-factly. He's just bought into and understands what she is so perfectly. She knocked over that pail. At this point, I'm just sitting back enjoying this film right now. Maybe I should talk about the colors again, because I believe I started talking about that at the beginning and didn't get to finish. The colorization of this movie was exceedingly complex, partly because they had to make sure that the hand-drawn characters in cell animation looked good on the backgrounds, which are again completely hand-drawn pictures that like were not digital at all. So they had to make sure that the cells and the backgrounds meshed together well, and also that the colors would be bright without being garish. And I really don't think I've ever seen a film that looks like this film in terms of its colors. Like, it looks totally unique. It doesn't look like any other Ghibli film because most of them use more subdued and quiet colors, because most of them are more subdued and quiet movies. And most films that try to be like bright are more like intense. Like if you were to watch like the Lego Movie or Speed Racer or something, those movies are really like in your face, bold primary colors, which is fine in its own way. I love those movies and I love that intensity, but this film manages to feel quaint and like and realistic in a way. Like nothing in this feels like a hyper reality. It still feels real. It just feels really colorful. And I don't know, maybe your mileage will vary there. I live in a room that is wall-to-wall covered in colorful anime crap, so maybe I'm just used to being surrounded by brightly colored objects all over the place. But to me, this film looks completely believable as a heightened version of the real world, while still being inviting and colorful and beautiful to look at. And I think it's easily one of the most aesthetically pleasing films. One of the most aesthetically pleasing things in existence. Also worth noting is that all of the concept art for this film was done using watercolors and like it was done, although all the concept art was done using pastels. Apparently, Hayao Miyazaki was at first drawing things in crayon, and he realized that crayon is hard to work with, so then he started using pastels, and he was like, oh my god, this is perfect. And then the other art designers started copying him. Oh shit, they got the ham. This is really making me want ham ramen, and instead I've got cold macaroni. I fucking love Ponyo's ham addiction so much. Oh, she's all sleepy. Look at her. Anyways, they did the concept art in pastels, and then the storyboards were done in watercolor, and that is totally unique to this film's existence. Most films are storyboarded in black and white, usually with fairly simplistic drawings. I mean, it depends on the film. There are films that have ludicrously detailed storyboards. Someone who's known for great storyboards is the anime director Satoshi Kon, who does his storyboards in like full manga aesthetic, like he draws these really detailed panel layouts and stuff, and they look really cool. But even those are in black and white. You almost never get storyboards that are in full color, at least for anime. But Miyazaki did them all watercolored, and they said that it really helps to bring to life like the colorizations of the scenes and the framing of the scenes, because they could already feel right from the storyboard like the sense of what this was trying to convey, what kind of feeling the colors and objects should convey. The animation director of this film also stated in the art book that he focused a lot on framing more than anything, like the positions of characters in relationship to the background. That was his biggest focus with this film. He wanted everything to look right in the frame. And as someone who puts a lot of emphasis on shot composition, as you will have known if you've seen some of my other videos where I talk about it, I think he did a phenomenal job. This whole movie looks just great. It is brilliantly directed, and in every way, directed in terms of art, animation, backgrounds, everything looks perfect. And that's another thing. I have no complaints about this movie, just to make that perfectly clear. You may have noticed this has just been me praising this movie like crazy, and that's because this movie is perfect. There is nothing that I do not love about this film. So if you were hoping for like an even-handed critique of all the pluses and minuses, you've probably figured out by now, since we're over an hour into this, that you're not getting that. Sosuke being a responsible, proud young man as his mom drives into what appears to be an abyss of water to go check on the old folks and make sure everyone made it out okay. Again, there's this great undercurrent of like subtle like scariness to this movie, where, you know, even though everything's been fun and bright, you, in the back of your mind, you know that this is out of control, that the sea going onto shore like that, you know, that it could cause all kinds of damage, that it could be like there could be people dead or injured. And I think that's another way, like I said before, that this film can relate to all audiences, where adults feel something a little deeper than what kids will be feeling. Kids might not think about that shit, but we adults will, and I don't think that's an accident. So here's a cool scene where they see all these lights and they think that there's a city in the distance, and it's not a city. Oof, that moon is gorgeous. It's a crazy looking moon. And they realize it's a bunch of ships, and there's just like a giant wall of water there. This is just intense. This is exactly what I mean. It's scary. This kind of thing is like, it's cool, but you're like, oh god, are the people on those ships okay? Is this gonna work out? This is crazy. Oh, and then now we get to meet Ponyo's awesome mom. This is just the coolest representation of like a goddess character possible. Just this unbelievably bright pastel rainbow water whale-sized woman. Look at that. Oh my god, that is majestic as shit. I don't understand how anyone could not like this movie. like with imagery like this going on. And this fucking amazing song. And I love, once again, you know, here we go, rolling with the punches. They saw a goddess and immediately they're like, oh my god, she's, you know, she's saving us. They sort of just accept it as a thing which is. It's a very classical Japanese mindset. Like, it's almost like a Shintoist sort of feeling to it, where, you know, they immediately recognize it as a goddess who is affecting them. But I think that most people would probably be more skeptical, especially in the modern age, but that's what makes this a fantastical film. Look at this thing climbing up the mountain. There's a barrier. What's going on? Ponyo is not an idiot. Even though she's very easily excited and she doesn't really understand humans that well, she's smart enough to know that her father will try to get her, so she set up a magical barrier around the house. He's so bad. Liam Neeson's performance in this movie is interesting. It's odd, but I like it. And I think that Ghibli films, like, either dubbed or subbed, they're always weird. It's just something about the way that that Miyazaki sort of like times and directs his dialogue. It always comes off as somewhat stilted and odd. If you really want to see that in effect, watch The Wind Rises. The dialogue in that movie feels really fucking weird. I hope I haven't been fucking up the name of Ponyo's dad before. I was calling him Fuyutsuki, but I don't remember if that's actually his name. I know it's the name of a guy from Evangelion. Oh, it's Fushi something. Look at her. She's enormous. She's awesome. And I love this. I love that she's indulging in this ocean even though she knows it's not right. She's like, my ocean is beautiful, but we gotta fix this shit. This is the pivotal turning point for his character, where he realizes that he's fucked up. That a combination of his negligence towards Ponyo and the fact that he was trying to override the humans has all led to this scenario where the entire world is now in danger. And even though the ocean is, you know, at its most beautiful, this is throwing the world out of balance, and it will eventually destroy everything. So they come up with this plan. They'll give Ponyo, they'll let her become a human, have the boy she likes, and then the world will be restored to balance. And through Sosuke being able to prove himself, it will show that humanity maybe deserved to not be wiped out by an endless amount of ocean. And now begins the phenomenal third act of this film. I love the structure of this movie a lot because the first half, rather, I guess more than half that has passed, is where all the big exciting moments have happened. The action is over, and from here on it's more of a placid sort of adventure, and it's really just about these two bonding and exploring and just seeing this cool, interesting world and learning more about each other, learning more about their responsibility to each other, and sort of having some time together. And look at that, they look cool. Look at the way they're drawn. Anyway, they have to go look for Sosuke's mom. Just generally, Sosuke's showing his intense amount of responsibility, resourcefulness, and how well these two work together as a team, where, through a combination of Ponyo's magic and Sosuke's forethought, I guess, they are able to get a lot done. So it just sort of becomes this quaint little adventure movie. I wouldn't even say there's really a conflict from here on out. And the idea, just the sheer idea that they have enlarged a toy boat and are going to sail it around. The whimsy here. I think a lot of people sort of underappreciate how great, like, just an idea can be. Like, how fun it is just to watch them turn a fucking toy boat into a full boat and drive it around using a giant candlestick. It's just clever and fun to watch. Watch this kid's amazing breath fucking manipulation. What is he taking breaths underwater? No? What the hell is he doing? Of course, Ponyo has the most breath possible. And he always is just so down for it. Everything she does is just the best thing ever to him. And I guess vice versa, really. Will these two ever get bored of each other? I wonder. I doubt it. Look at him. Look at him. He's adorable. And they've got this clever sort of juxtaposition between his, like, a more serious demeanor. Not so much serious. He's not a stick in the mud or anything, but he's got that sense of pride and like that face right there is sort of what I'm trying to get at here. And then Ponyo is, wild. He always looks like he's very God, I can't think of the fucking word I want to use here. I think you can get what I'm trying to say. I hope you get what I mean. The crab was climbing their house. Ooh, here comes one of my favorite shots too, when they start going over the roads. Teamwork. I'm just waiting for this shot that I love. Right here. These are all like ancient fish. If you haven't noticed already, all the fish that have emerged from Ponyo causing this storm are all fish that have been extinct for a long time. And what I love about that shot was that they were going along the roads. Like they're following the same roads, like as if they were cars, Look at them. They're like going along the lanes. It's just really cool. It's just these big ancient fish swimming along. Oh yeah, he for some reason they know about these ancient fish. I forgot that they actually say that. It's from the Baronian age or whatever he said. These kids, holy fuck. These kids know a lot about ancient fish. I mean, I guess it makes some sense for Ponyo too, but Sosuke is just weirdly knowledgeable about ancient fish. Trees coming out of the water is one of my favorite things to see, period. I've seen a lot of it in real life because I used to go out and explore a lot in like the forests around like my neighborhood or house in any of the houses I've lived in. I have a habit of finding a forest and exploring it, and I've seen like swampy areas where trees will be coming out of the water, and it's always super fucking cool to me. So that's definitely a plus. And I love this sort of classic romantic scenario of the man paddling his wife along, and she's wearing this cute sundress with the yellow umbrella and everything, and her hair is awesome. Look at her. She's a cutie, and she's got her baby. Now, according to the art book, at this moment when Ponyo offers the baby some of her soup, she's actually reading the baby's mind. That's how it was phrased in the book. I don't know how literally they meant that, but it said Ponyo reads the baby's mind and then offers it some of her soup. So that might be what's happening here. This sort of understanding between them. She even nods like, I fully understand you. Look at her struggling to get the cup off her back. This kid wants that shit bad. I love how she doesn't explain to anyone. They're all just watching her like, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but the baby was chewing on the cup. This baby is freaking adorable. And Ponyo's like, no. Just, I love this woman's like perpetual smile. This movie's so pleasant and good-natured. Oh, here's the other scene I was mentioning. So the art designer in the art book was talking about how normally when she's handled crowd shots in anime, or not art designer, the color designer. Normally when she's handled crowd shots, they would make all the people the same color and just have a lot of them, and it would convey that there are a lot of people. But what Miyazaki told her to do for this scene was actually to convey the number of people by making them all different colored. And so you see such a huge collage of colors going by, and if you look at the scene you can tell that they're all wearing like different colored shirts. There's all these multicolored flags, and it immediately gives you this sense of like this almost overwhelming number of people sailing by in the background, because there's so many different colors and they all seem individual from one another. Which is just like the fish girls, or the crabs, where the individuality was conveyed by how they all look or act different. In this case, they're not really acting different in the background, but the fact that there's so many colors conveys a large number of individual persons. Which is fucking clever, and not something that anyone else would probably have thought of, but there's a reason Hayao Miyazaki is regarded as a genius. And then this baby gets a cold, and Ponyo's like, nah, dog. I don't deal with that. I love how she's gradually lost everything she was holding on to, if you were paying attention. Like, she had the cup, but then she gave it to that woman. She had the thermos, but then after pouring out the soup, she dropped it. And then just there, as she jumped off the thing, off the boat, she lost the backpack. So all the gear she had at the start of that scene is now gone. And I never really noticed that touch until just now. And all these people, of course, recognize him. And he just brushes off that little girl. And I love that they just let him do this too. These people have a lot of faith in Sosuke. Like, they know that he's a really responsible, good-natured kid because they totally didn't tell him, like, it's too dangerous, get back in the boat. They were just like, hey, do you want to come with us? What? No, you want to find your mom? All right, man, do what you got to do, dog. What a bunch of cool people. What a cool community. Have I mentioned I love this movie? Look at these fucking birds. Look at that fucking salamander. Ooh, big fishes. There's a world under the water, man. This takes me back to canoeing down a river, which I have done once. And it was long. It was a long and mostly boring canoe ride down a river. But it was cool to see. It was cool. One of those things that's cool to experience once. Now Ponyo's getting tired and she's running out of magic. She don't know what to do. I'm gonna eat some more of this this gross cold macaroni because it's there. Now Ponyo's running on fumes. And Sosuke's like, well, shit. I wish Ponyo were here to heat up my macaroni for me. Because, shit is straight not good. Oh, and that swishing sound is my diet green tea that I'm drinking. This is a very quiet scene. I don't have much to say about it. It's sort of a build-up scene as we go along here. This is sort of the march to the finale. And I love how they did it, too, with this massive sort of slowdown. Actually, I could compare this. I think there's a scene like this in a lot of Hayao Miyazaki's films where he likes to put his biggest character development moments in parts where there's not a lot of dialogue and a lot of shots of the characters just sort of moving along. My favorite part of Spirited Away is when Chihiro takes the train ride with No Face and the giant baby who's been turned into a mouse and the little dust mite thing or whatever it was. And they just have this sort of introspective ride, like right after the scene of really high intensity. And there's a lot of subtle character development in that scene where the characters are all sort of maturing together. And this scene is less, it doesn't develop Sosuke quite as much, but it does put him into a scenario where things are starting to get a little bit more scary for him because it's really all him now. It's on him to you know, to take care of Ponyo, who's passed out and run out of magic, to find his mom, and it's sort of a situation where he starts to panic a little. It puts him through the ringer a bit. And it really is, like, this scene is amazingly slower than the rest of the film. Like, I only can truly appreciate it now that I'm trying to talk over it, as I have been doing, and realizing, like, just how drawn out each sort of shot of this is, as it really tries to, like, give us a sense of gravity as we're moving towards the end of the movie. Well, he finds his mama's car and it's empty. And now Sosuke's starting to get a little paranoid, because he's, I guess, probably hard to imagine his mom would get that far away from her car. And he is a child in the end. Ponyo sleepily picking up her toy boat. She's so damn adorable. And so here we sort of get a reciprocation where, throughout the early part of the movie, Sosuke was taking care of Ponyo. He's moving her along and developing a trust where he was protecting her, he was guiding her, and now she finally gets the chance to be the one to help him out, to pick him up, when he's at his lowest and most scared. I guess this is actually meant to parallel the scene at the beginning where Ponyo is in a bottle and she's scared and helpless, and Sosuke helped her. And now, when Sosuke is scared and helpless, Ponyo comes along and makes him feel that he can continue on. So now we've had a reciprocation, and they're developing as a couple. It's good stuff. This is like a pretty cool, like a magical looking image. We've got the rainbow jellyfish field that was around the boat at the beginning of the movie. There's the old women all have their abilities back because of magic, and they're looking at some big ass whales. Who would not want to do that? Fushimoto. Someone's gonna crucify me for saying his name wrong through like the whole beginning of the movie. I love that line. Are they too young for this? Are we too old? Sort of those are good questions. I love that. It's like, it's calling to attention. Just, do these questions matter? Is there too young? Is there too old? The fact of the matter is they love each other. I don't know if it's any less believable that two kids love each other than it would be that two adults love each other. Might be harder to imagine that they'll continue to love each other if they change significantly as they grow up, but at the same time, if they grow up together, maybe they'll influence one another along the way, and they'll just be good couple. There are, couples like that in reality, so I don't think it's impossible to believe. Something that bothers me a lot in movies is when people equate something being believable to something being directly relative to themselves. Like, oh, I would never have fallen in love like that when I was 5, so I can't believe it. But it's like, but there are people like that. The characters aren't supposed to be you, they're supposed to be themselves. And Ponyo and Sosuke are the kind of characters who fall in love at that age. I don't think they're 5, but I was just throwing out a number. I love this excitement. We don't really know what they're setting up for, but everyone's there and everyone's really excited about it. And that, you know, the moms have had a talk together and I guess get along pretty well. You definitely get the sense that we don't know what Ponyo's mom has said to Sosuke's mom, but it's definitely led Sosuke's mom to sort of revere and respect her. Ponyo doesn't like this place. Given what we know about giant archways in Ghibli movies, that's probably a safe way to feel. It's a Spirited Away reference for the one of you who doesn't get that. This is very quiet and dark. Did she just drop the bucket? Yeah. Or she dropped the boat. And now she's dragging along the bucket. Oh no, he's got the boat. I guess the bucket was just hitting the ground. Oh, but now he's lost the boat. So you see how at this point it's boiled down. Everything they were carrying is now gone, and it's just the two of them alone. They've gradually shed all of their other belongings besides the bucket through which they first met. And Ponyo's going fish again. And Sosuke's pretty worried about it. But it's okay, because he's got a bucket. Still adorable. This scene is funny because it's like totally pointless, but it's like Fushimoto's like totally changed man, but this ornery old woman doesn't believe him, and I love this shot. Was also a very Ghibli sort of shot and motion. This everything about him as a character is very classically Ghibli. He almost feels like he walked out of a Castle in the Sky. And of course, Ponyo still doesn't trust him either. I don't know how he pulls off this fucking full lean run. Now he's just getting desperate. This is such a funny and chaotic scene that it like I said before, it really does not mean much of anything because they all, you know, get taken in anyways. But it is pretty funny to watch this fish slap into her face. And they make it so dramatic. What a fucking weird shot. And then they just get owned. I've always found that to be the weirdest scene in this whole movie. I guess they probably just wanted there to be a final sort of conflict or some kind of brief action sequence that they could do before it was all over. And that's what they came up with. I can't say I dislike the scene or anything, even though I know it's pointless, because it is pretty funny. the final boss was sort of the ornery old woman. But now everybody's together in a united front of all ages and species and the ocean and land, humans and fish, all together. It's playing that theme again, that fantastic theme from throughout the movie. I still want to marry Sosuke's mom. And Ponyo's like 12-foot goddess mom. She is cool. I want to know the story of how Ponyo's mom and dad met. I would very much like to hear that story. You know that Ponyo is a fish. The speed at which he is capable of understanding magic is just perfect. I love all the Ponyos. I agree. That was awesome. The way she swam through her hair like it was like an anemone. Oh my god, she's adorable. This googly little fish. I know I'm not saying much at this point, but I've mostly covered most of what I wanted to say about this movie. Now I'm just enjoying it for myself. You know, that's another thing to be said about this. I've been talking over this entire movie, and I have not enjoyed it any less than I did the last 3 times I've seen it. This movie can be completely enjoyed without hearing any of the dialogue whatsoever. Not to say that the dialogue is not good, because some of it's very memorable, such as Ponyo loves ham. But I think it's just, it conveys so much visually that you don't need the dialogue to understand it. It completely communicates everything it wants to say through visuals alone. I mean, obviously I've seen the movie before, so it's not like it's difficult for me to remember what's happening, but the fact that it's no less enjoyable, even if I can't hear what they're saying really, is a testament to the striking visual nature of this film. That's all the baby Ponyos. Now they're all turning into sea goddess ladies. Or maybe they're just like forming with her. The Riza is the head. And she's handed off her daughter to the humans. And then just utter chaos. This is another one of those moments where it's like, for adults watching this, you remember how terrifying this is, and like how the sea has, you know, just like wrecked everything. And the old ladies are all healed, and they're just... Hey, it's my toy boat. And they make up. What good stuff, man. Even he's a good guy now. Everybody in this movie is just good people. What a bunch of good. A massive number of good. And I love this part too. There's this whole like resolution happening. Everyone's reuniting, and Ponyo just starts getting annoyed because he hasn't kissed the bubble yet. And she's like, let's do this. And then she grows into human, and that's it. That's Ponyo on the cliff by the sea. And then we exit on this fucking adorable song. Ponyo, 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 Ponyo on the sea. Ponyo, Ponyo, Ponyo. At the round tummy. If you don't get this song stuck in your head at least once, then I would be significantly surprised. So that was Ponyo on the Cliff by the Sea, my favorite Miyazaki film, my favorite Ghibli film, my favorite film, period. Just all around. And I hope I communicated well enough what I love about this film so much. I think I said pretty much everything I have to say. I don't think there's anything that I left unexplored. So I'm glad I did it this way. I was able to talk through most of the movie, and I got all my points out there. And I really wanted to do it this way so that you could hear my moment-to-moment reactions, not just like me telling you, here's what I think about this, and this part. I wanted you to actually hear me, like, freaking out over how adorable Ponyo is and stuff like that, because that is such a big part of the enjoyment of this film for me. I've only ever watched this film with other people and sort of overreacted in that way because I've been around others and we can all go, oh my god, Ponyo's so cute. I first saw it with like my ex-girlfriend. I watched it with my little brother, both of whom love cute movies. So saw parts of it with my brother Victor, and I think it's a great film to watch that way if you're watching it with someone else who will appreciate it, because it's kind of a good party movie. It's a good, like I said, you don't have to necessarily pay attention to it to really follow what's happening or hear the dialogue. It's such a visually exquisite experience, and I don't like I'm run the risk when I say something like that of making it sound like it's only good for the visuals, and that's not the case at all. It's not that the film doesn't convey a story, it just conveys its story through its visuals, and therefore, by saying the visuals make the movie, I don't mean that in like a superficial sense of it's pretty ergo it's good. I mean the film visually communicates. It tells me things. It makes me feel certain things through its visuals. It's expressive through its visuals. And I think people tend to underestimate that, how visuals are a fucking art form. Animation is an art form, not just script writing, but actual animation itself can convey emotion. Well, that's the end. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed doing it, and see you in the future around.